In this video, we want to compare what is happening in Niger, a country under a military regime, to what is happening in Nigeria, a country that is under a civilian regime. We all know that military regimes, by their training, they expect everyone to say yes sir when giving an order. So critics are not allowed, they are never tolerated. In a civilian regime, everyone supposedly has and enjoys free speech. You can express yourself the way you want without fear of being bundled into detention or disappeared, like it happens sometimes. Under a military regime, no one expects his human rights to be upheld. After all, the boys always throw away the constitution. They rule by decrees. In a civilian regime, you can always go to court to fight for your human rights violation by the government or any of their agencies. Now, let's start the comparison with Niger Republic. This lady, called Samira Sadu, a blogger and a journalist, was disappeared on the 30th of September 2023. According to her lawyer, she was arrested by people who they thought were policemen. And when they went to the nearest police station to ask about her whereabouts, they denied ever arresting her. Up till now, no agency of the government have accepted that they arrested Samira. So, sort of no one knows where she is right now. She was just disappeared by the state.
Aucune autorité n'a reconnu avoir donné des instructions pour interpeller Dame Samira Sadu. Donc, c'est pourquoi, après 72 heures de cette interpellation, nous avons estimé que c'est tout simplement un enlèvement et une séquestration qui sont des faits prévus et punis par les dispositions des articles de 265 à 267 du Code pénal nigérien.
Samira is an activist. It is not the first time she's been detained by the police or any security agency of the state. In fact, the last time she was detained was in 2020 when they were still under a civilian government. So what did Samira do to have necessitated her disappearance by the state? Because they can't just arrest her and keep her incommunicado and even deny arresting her in the first place. On further investigation, we found out they accused her of being against the state and revealing state secrets. Or, as one guy put it, revealing military strategies that are outlawed by the state. Upon further research, we found this post she made on Facebook, which is a reply to someone that seems to be her relation. Anyway, to cut the whole story short, the most important thing is that she's in detention and no one knows where she is. Many of her colleagues are calling for her release, including Amnesty International. Like already said, this is the difference between a military regime and a civilian one. This is why many people oppose military regimes, because of their high-handedness and human rights violations. Now, let's compare what is happening to Samira in Niger Republic to what is happening to Chike Ibezim and Rashid, the former EFCC chairman in Nigeria. Let's start with Rashid, who was suspended as the EFCC chairman since June 14, 2023. Since then, he has been in detention without trial at the SSSS headquarters in Abuja. It's not clear why the state has detained Rashid all this while. It doesn't look like he has challenged his detention in court also. What is clear is that he was investigating many politicians who are now former governors. They all lost their immunity by May this year when they left office, and since they've lost their immunity, they can now be prosecuted by the EFCC, the police, any agency. So keeping Rashid in detention means that these corrupt politicians will not be prosecuted anytime soon, maybe in the future. The next guy, Chike Ibezim, was picked up for something not against the state, but against an individual who is connected to high places and claims he defamed him. That's why he's been in detention for almost 60 days. That's unbelievable, but this is Nigeria. Let's start from how he was picked up. The guys set him up. They told him they had a job for him. They gave him an address. When he showed up there, they arrested him, Many people started looking for him. They started going around many agencies. All of them denied, just like they are denying in Niger Republic. All of a sudden, the police shows up on national television with the guy and starts questioning him live, trying to force him to accept the accusation live on television. But the guy held his ground, maintained that he wasn't the person that posted the information on Twitter, that he was his brother, but the police are claiming that his phone number was used in setting up the Twitter account. How laughable. The worst part is that there are two separate court orders that have demanded his immediate release, but the police are still holding him in place of his brother.
Okay. Where does he work?
Nnamdi works as a journalist and he operates Reportera.
Okay. Does he have any office?
Not to my knowledge. He uses my office as a correspondence address.
Your own office in Abuja?
Yes.
Okay. So where is he now?
I have no idea where my brother is. I've been in detention for 26 days now.
Who actually wrote the article? Even the article was just a copy, a reference of another published article. It's just like someone writing an article and you post the same article exactly the same way the other person wrote it. You can be held accountable. You quoted another person. Let's even assume you can be held accountable. Can your own brother be held in your place? How about going to court to file for defamation? Is it no longer a civil matter while involve the police in a civil matter? Now you can see how they abuse human rights in a civilian regime. What is obtainable in a military regime, we see the same thing, even worse, in a civilian regime. This is why you wouldn't blame people who support military regimes. Any serious military regime will never support corruption, especially when people are involved in stealing state funds. But look at a civilian regime. They removed an EFCC chairman just because he had many files on many politicians, and maybe because he didn't want to play ball, they had to remove him and put him in an indefinite detention. Compare that to military regime in Niger Republic, for instance. Despite their human rights abuses and disappearance of Samira, they still successfully evicted France from their country. Yes, they are now evacuating their military personnel in Niger. They've achieved a lot of things. There are still many they will need to achieve, like earning more money for their country, because they no longer have enough money that covers their budget. They can't even pay all the soldiers or even civil servants. So they need to find ways to generate more money for their country. It's not about attaining power. It's about what you do with that power to uplift your people. In Nigeria, they've acquired power, but it has been one calamity after calamity. Now, Nigerians are worse off than they were in January this year. By that time, petrol could still be bought at 200 naira per liter. The exchange rate between the dollar and naira wasn't up to 800 naira, but today it is 1,000 naira to $1. After Buhari sank the Nigerian economy, everyone thought that we can never have it lower than Buhari's time. But now we are even lower than the level we were during Buhari's regime. Petrol is selling for about 650 naira per liter. Many can't move around like they used to. Many are resigning from their jobs en masse because they can't be working and spending all their money on transportation. Many companies are also leaving and folding shop. What is going on? How can civilians manage to destroy the economy under a few years? Have any military regime done that in Nigeria's history? No. In fact, majority of the infrastructure we have in Nigeria today were built under the military era. So how can people who are not trained to manage the economy, who are only trained in administration, perform better than civilians who supposedly should have a versatile background? The answer is simple. During the military era, they employed people who knew the job. They employed professionals and put them in the right positions. But during the past few years, all we've seen is cronyism, nepotism. They employed people who couldn't do the job, either because he's his brother or a brother's friend. The whole thing kept moving within the same circle. So fresh ideas were suppressed. They couldn't move forward. Rather, they sank the Nigerian economy. The same thing is happening today before our eyes. We have inexperienced people in positions. We have people who openly violate the law, like someone that's supposed to be a serving youth member is a minister today. So the system of government does not in any way determine performance in office. It all boils down to the individual, whether he wants to do the job to serve the nation or whether he wants to serve himself and his friends. At the end of the day, we all suffer for it. Thanks for watching.